A big thank you to Western Digital for supplying the review unit in today's video. That said, in the interests of full disclosure, the unit is being returned to them, and they have had no influence whatsoever on what I say or my opinions in this video. They are all my own. Hi and welcome again to Tech It Out. In the two previous videos that I made on the Western Digital MyCloud Duo, we looked of course at the unboxing and what comes with the unit, and a general look around at the unit itself. And then we went on to the initial settings and standard settings that you need to sort out in order to use it. In this video we're going to look at a little bit more of the in-depth and advanced settings and some of the possibilities that we can actually use this unit for. So we just sign in back into the control panel now. And we are back in the status screen as usual in the home screen. We've still got the users there that I set up, another user and Tech It Out. We've still got the group set up, level 2 and top level. And if we go into the shares are still there. So we have the standard ones that come predefined. We've got one for Tech It Out, one for another user, and then the joint account that we set up so that the two accounts could share one folder without having to share all their own files. We didn't look at cloud access because I think that is something that you can actually walk through quite easily in the wizard. Basically you sign in with your account and then a password is sent to you by email from WD. Now we have first of all to look at today the USB backups. The unit comes with two USB 3 ports on the back, and you can plug into these any USB 3 hard drive that you want. So you can plug in a standalone desktop unit or a mobile unit, such as the My Passport from WD. So as you can see, I've already plugged in My Passport, or my Passport, if that makes sense. And I'm able now to set up a backup to the My Passport from the accounts I set up on the WD MyCloud, simply by choosing the options from the control panel that I need. So I've got NAS to USB, the 3 accounts that I want to back up, where they're going to, which is the My Passport, and I want to synchronize them so that they're always in sync and the same files are on both the main unit and the USB drive plugged in to the USB 3 port on the MyCloud. And this will keep all of them in sync as and when I update or add new files to the various folders. Go here to the NAS USB. You do have other choices. USB to hard drive to copy it back into the hard drive. So if there is a problem or you lost a file that you want back again, you can actually copy it back from your backup copy into the hard drive on the MyCloud. You also have this, remote backups. Now this is extremely useful and is something I will be using myself. With this, in essence, you can back up any server that you have or any remote account that you have. So if you have a server somewhere, you can actually back it up to here on the MyCloud, or you can back up from the MyCloud to the server. So you're just going to create the job, choose whether you want to back up to the NAS or back up from the NAS. Having decided I want to back up from a server to the MyCloud, I just give it a job title, a job name. I choose the NAS server as the remote server because that's where I'm getting the files from. Put in the IP address of the server, the password, and if it has an SSH username, that as well. The password as well for that, of course. Then you can choose the folder on the remote server and the destination folder where you want the file to go to within the NAS. Backup type again, you can choose copy or synchronize. and you can actually set up a time to back up the server to the NAS, so you can have recurring daily, weekly or monthly backups. Then you just set the time and switch it on by clicking the Create button. Next, we've got internal backups. So again, it's exactly the same type of layout: job name, source folder, so you can choose the source folder that you want to back up from, the destination folder to back up to, and then the backup type again. So what you're doing here is, in essence, backing up files or folders on the MyCloud to another folder on the MyCloud itself. So you have the job name, source folder, destination folder, backup type. Again, you can do a copy or synchronize. Then you've got, in essence, an extra set of backups of your files. Not something I think I'd use on this particular unit itself, but something could be very handy if you have a single drive unit and you want 2 copies. Next, we go on to cloud backups. This is where we can back up the MyCloud to a cloud account. And there are 2 drives here, Elephant Drive and the Amazon S3 drive. Of course, you'd have to have an account on either of these to be able to back up to them. And then the last choice is camera backups, where if you've got a suitably equipped camera, you can back up your files from your camera, whether they be photographs or videos, to the MyCloud automatically as you are taking the videos or photographs. Next, we have the apps. We have HTTP downloads. And again, you can download from a HTTP source. So if you've got a server somewhere with files that you want to download, rather than just logging in through the backup, you can actually download them. Exactly the same. Create a job name, put in the IP of the host, then the login method, and so on. Very similar to the earlier one where we were backing up a server, but instead of backing up the whole server, of course, in this case, we're just downloading files. And the same goes for the FTP downloads. P2P downloads, of course, well, if you use them, be very careful, because there are some very nasty files out there. Always use trusted sources. And then finally, we've got the web file viewer, which allows us to view any files on the MyCloud in a browser window, whether on the machine that you have it set up to access it, or indeed from anywhere on your network with permissions. If I click on the little USB icon at the top here, you see that I've got my passport plugged in. Still a bit awkward saying that, my passport. Seems as if I'm saying it wrong. We got the notifications there. And now we're going to go into the settings and look at some of the more advanced settings. Now we've already gone through setting up the device, the profile of the device, the language, cloud access, Mac backups and services. Now one of the things I can switch off in here, as I won't be using it because I don't have a Mac, are the Mac backups. So if I just click on the off button, this will turn off the Mac backups. It'll take a little while as it updates. This, of course, can be left on. There's no real benefit to turning it off, but as I don't use any Macs, I don't see the point in having it switched on. The network profile there. We got the network services, we got apps control, Windows services, and remote server, and also the port forwarding. In media, we've got the LNA media server. That's switched on at the moment, so we can view our films and whatever. We've got iTunes here as well, which I could also switch off, but I'll leave that for now. We'll go into utilities. We've got the system diagnostics, restore to default, and system configuration. You can save the config file, so you've got a backup of how the system is set up already. You can format the disk. We don't need to do that at the moment. You can create an ISO image of the disk, or you can create an ISO share. We've also got notification emails and then firmware updates. Now we're going to go into the RAID setup. So if you go into storage, you can look at the disk status to see how the disks are behaving and if there's any problems with them. If we click on RAID, we now have the option of setting up the RAID on the device. So all RAID volumes are active and healthy. We can turn on the auto rebuild, which helps if one of the disks goes down and you have to replace it. It rebuilds that disk. So on this unit, it's set up as a mirror, hence the name. So if you lose one disk, it will copy all the files from the other good disk to the new disk when you put it in, if you have auto rebuild switched on. Finally, we have the actual RAID setup. At the moment, we have it set as RAID 1, but we also have some other choices. We have JBOD. We have spanning, which actually gives us a full 4 terabytes of usable space by writing each file to one disk only until that disk is full, and then continuing to write the rest of the files to the other disk. It becomes one big hard drive. You have RAID 0, which is striping. Now this writes part of the files to each drive. The beauty of this one is, of course, it speeds up. It's not quite twice the speed, but it does speed up reading and writing a lot. And it's not really something that's necessary, I believe, on a small RAID setup. It's a bit scary because if one disk fails, you lose everything and there's no way of getting it back. And of course, we're using RAID 1 at the moment. Now to switch to getting the full amount of space on this system, we can use spanning. If we click spanning and switch to spanning, click next, and it gives us this screen, which tells us that by changing it, we are going to lose all the data that's already on the drive. So if you have got data on your drives and you want to switch it to have the full amount of drive space available to you, remember you have to back up everything beforehand, because if you don't, you will lose it when you do this. If you're going to change the setting to spanning, instead of having two 2 terabyte drives which are mirrored to one full 4 terabyte drive, you first of all click on spanning, you click next, and it does take quite a while to actually perform this operation. I will, of course, as ever, because it's going to be sitting here for a while, speed it up and move us on to the completion of the process. So now it's completed the first part. It's decided that both drives are good. Click next again to move on to the second part of the process. And as you can see, it's telling us now that we're going to have one complete 4 terabyte drive rather than two 2 terabyte drives. And it starts the repartitioning of the drives. That being complete, we move on to the next part of the process, which is the formatting of the drives. And with the formatting complete, it tells us now that we have one complete drive, which is 3.92 terabytes, because there's always a little bit of the drive which is used up for system files. We now have one 4 terabyte drive rather than two 2 terabyte drives, as we began with mirrored. So as you can see, we still have our users and we'll still have our groups. But clicking on shares, you'll see that we have now lost the shares. We have gone back to having the My Passport, public, Smartware, and so on, the default settings. If we go back into the backups, we can go through the same process again of recovering the files that we backed up before we started this and bring them back onto the drive, or indeed setting up backups from the drive. You will need to reset up the backups once more because of course the drive has changed. The folders that you would have chosen beforehand will be gone, and so any forms of backups that you've created will have to be reallocated. This will be the same in apps, of course, where you set up a network or a remote backup from a drive or a server, or to a drive or a server or a cloud account. These will all also have to be reset. It's more or less basically like installing a new drive completely and starting from scratch. The only thing you still have will be your user accounts and your shares. Everything else will need to be redone. So if you're going to do this, it's a very good idea to do it before saving files to the drive. Now the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to restore the system to its previous state by going into the utilities and restore to default. We click down, choose full restore, and then clicking the next button, OK. It will now restore it to its factory settings, which will be back to the 2 TB drives in RAID 1 mirroring. Finally, the last thing I wanted to talk about was the scalability and future-proofing of the unit. As you remember, when I did the unpacking, I showed you that each of the drives can be taken out. So as they fill up, so you get 2 full drives, you can take them out and start again. Or indeed, you can actually install larger drives in the unit. Now the possibilities of this are quite incredible, because you can install into this unit the 2 drives which are matching, the 2 TB drives, or you can scale up to as far as the 8 TB RAID drives, or indeed the 10 TB drives, which are really server drives. And it's as simple as sliding the drive out, sliding the new drive in, putting the little panel back on top and closing the lid. And then you'll have either a 16 TB or a 20 TB drive. But it even goes further than this. On the back you have 2 USB 3 ports, which means in essence you can plug in 2 more drives. You could plug in 2 WD MyClouds, 2 WD MyBooks, the new one or the older one, whichever one you happen to have another 8 TB per port, making 16 TB. But if you have a dual drive system, you can actually put in 2 8 TB drives into each of the systems, giving you a massive 32 TB. Or if you can afford it, the gold 10 TB drives, which will give you a further 40 TB. So theoretical, the maximum for RAID is 48 TB, or you could have a total of 6 10 TB drives, giving you a whopping 60 TB of storage. I don't know, I think I would never fill that up in the whole of my lifetime. So thank you for joining me over these 3 videos with the reviews of the WD MyCloud Mirror. Thank you again to WD for supplying the unit. And I look forward to seeing you again in the next video. Thank you for watching.